The GPS DairyCAST features the high-value insights of the GPS Dairy Consulting team's trusted advisors and the owners and managers from the elite dairy farms they serve. These conversations deliver on the GPS Dairy Consulting promise to inspire change and grow leaders.
Hello and welcome to the GPS DairyCAST. I'm Peggy Coffeen from the Uplevel Dairy Podcast, serving as your host. And on this episode from the 2026 GPS Leaders Forum, we are talking about how to gain efficiencies with Rotary milking parlors with dairyman and CEO of High Plains Ponderosa Dairy, Greg Bethard, and GPS Dairy Consultant, Paul Dyk. This episode of the GPS DairyCAST is proudly sponsored by Elanco Animal Health. Elanco provides customized solutions for dairy producers to yield healthy young stock and productive cows, to control flies and pests, and to advance sustainability and improve management efficiency.
I'm Paul Dyk, and we're glad to have Greg Bethard with us today. He is the CEO and managing partner of High Plains Ponderosa Dairy. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
One of the things that we did this year at our Leaders Forum is you talked about Rotary parlors. Mm-hmm. And we're actually talking the day before you're going to give this presentation, but we really wanted to capture some of those insights that you had in your presentation. So I kind of want to go over what you did and what your thoughts are. So maybe explain to us a little bit about what you have for parlors, what kind of parlors you have, and sizes, etc. What do you have?
So I've never run a parallel barn. As a consultant, I've seen many of them, obviously, but I never run one. You really don't understand the barn until you run one and figure out the things you can and can't do with it. And we started back in 2017 is when I got involved with the dairy. There was a 160 stall rotary. Wow. And so we added 110 stall rotary in 2018. Yep. And then we just added two 128s in 2025, one in January, one in March. Yep. And then that old 60 that was built in 2001, I believe, we gutted that and put a new 74 in its place. And so basically left the building in place, ripped out all the concrete, new electrical, new plumbing and everything. And that was the biggest deck we could fit in that building. And so that's what we're left with. And all the principles of running a rotary, I think, apply to any size rotary. It's not once you get above a certain size or below a certain size, things change. It really doesn't. The principles, I think, remain the same.
Why 128? Is that a magic number just for maximizing?
No, that's what DeLaval offers. Yep. Right. I asked DeLaval to build a 140, and they said they haven't done it yet, and so they weren't just going to cobble one together. They wanted to be sure the engineering's right. I had other vendors willing to build a 140 for me. That was the size I really wanted, was a 140. Yep. And because in my part of the world, you can have larger cow numbers because there's no people and no space and whatnot. You know, that probably wouldn't make sense in a lot of parts of the U.S., something that big. I really wanted the biggest parlor I could get to maximize the efficiency of the barn. And right now, the 128, as far as I know, is the biggest deck operating anywhere that I know of, at least from the major vendors. If you look at the major companies that make them, that's the biggest one. So that was really the magic on that. And then what you really do in sizing it, once you understand the principles, all right, if you're fixed on your deck size, because most of them you get like a 70 or a 72 or somebody got a 74 or an 80 or a 90. Everybody's got their sizes and they really don't deviate from that much. You're stuck there. So once you choose your barn, then you say, all right, how many cows can I milk in this barn?
That's what everybody asks, right?
Yeah, right. And then you got to start doing the math and doing the assumptions and understand what's going on and doing all that. The other way you could do it is say, okay, I want to milk X number of cows. What size deck do I need to be able to do that? And you could go about it that way, because a lot of dairies, their limitations are permit, right? They may have a cow flow for X number of cows, or for whatever reason, they may be capped on cow numbers. And then they're probably like, okay, this number of cows, I want to milk them 2X or 3X or whatever. Here's how many milkings a day. And then back calculate from there to say, hey, this is probably the size rotary that I need, and then see what's out there and get one that matches close to that.
How many cows are you putting through the 128? What do you think's the max you can put through?
I think we can get 12.5 through twice a day. So 25,000 milkings a day I think we can do in a 128. 2X is better for cow loading and rotary performance, just because cows have 4 hours more milk. They want to get milked out. They load better. They're anxious to get on the deck. They let their milk down better, require less prep, in my view, to get good letdown. So 2X, I think, makes it a little easier. So I think throughput is often a little better on 2X. But I'm saying that by watching other rotaries. I've never milked 3X myself. So I can't tell you, like, hey, I've seen it and seen the change. We've always been 2X, since that's what I'm accustomed to.
Crossbreds, Holsteins?
We are crossbreds, and that's why our Rotary barn, the 128, if you were milking Holsteins, that same deck would be 120 stall Rotary. De Laval makes 2 configurations, 2 stall sizes, basically. So every one of their decks, you can get 2 different stall sizes. Right. And so my 128 would be a 120. If it was Holsteins, that'd be the two sizes available. So we are crossbreds, and that if you were milking Jerseys, you'd get the 128 too. A full-size Holstein will fit in the stalls, but it's really tight.
Yeah. We can go long ways down that road in Holstein's crossbreds. We'll keep the Rotaries in focus on this one. Thinking about your presentation, you had some metrics that you think are important. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about those? What kind of metric do you use and say, this thing's running smooth?
Yep. Efficiency, I think, is the most important metric to say, like, okay, here's what speed we're running it at and how efficient am I at getting cow's milk based on that. A lot of people look at cows per hour, which is cute and interesting, I suppose, but that's not about efficiency, right? So to me, efficiency, I'll use simple numbers to make the math easy for both you and I. So there's 3,600 seconds in an hour.
Yep.
So let's say we're going to run a deck at 4-second entry time. For easy math. So 3,600 seconds divided by 4 seconds is 900 cows an hour, right? Yep. So that means theoretically, if everything ran perfect, you'd get 900 cows an hour through that barn. Let's say you were actually getting 800 cows an hour through the barn. 800 divided by 900 gives you a percentage, and that's the efficiency. And so I think really well-running wheels that aren't training fresh heifers, not treating hospital cows, not drying cows off, stuff like that, just normal milking cows, 95+% efficiency.
Probably max, you think?
I've seen 98. If you're above 95, you're doing pretty good. There's 4 things that determine how many cows you can milk in a Rotary. And there's really only 4 things. So one is wheel speed, and you can adjust that. In our case, we change wheel speed by every pen, and a PLC does it for us. So the milkers are not controlling the speed of the deck, or employees are not. One person can go in the PLC and change it. So wheel speed is obviously a factor, but the other 3 ones that you can really do something about are cows going around twice. So if a cow goes around twice, she's going to obviously take a spot of another cow. And in my view, if she goes around twice, she ought to be milking twice as much to justify the second trip around. The other one is wheel stops. So somebody pulls the e-stop, or there's several e-stops around the dairy safety gates that if a cow rubs up against them, it'll slow the deck down. So if you had a lot of those, they really slow things down. And then the third one is empty stalls. So really those 3 things are the 3 things that really kill Rotary efficiency. Once you set your speed, you've got that other 3 items. So if your efficiency is 90% or 85 or something less, it's one of those 3 things. There's nothing else.
What do you do to get the cows to load smoothly and quickly and just keep things rolling so we don't have empty stalls? What are things that fit into that?
So that's the paradox of every Rotary, and everybody just pulls their hair out when they first get a Rotary. Like, I know when we put our first one up, man, we had a heck of a time getting cows loading, and we had a lot of injured cows, and we really pulled our hair out. And so I think there's a couple of factors. First, probably most important, is the crowd gate, in my view. So the crowd gate, you want to keep cows mildly uncomfortable, right? So you don't want to hurt them, obviously. You don't want to pack them so tight that cows are getting hurt or stepped on, or the crowd gate injuries, that sort of stuff. But you don't want any space between cows, because cows, naturally, if there's space, they're just going to kind of hang out, and they may stop. I'm chewing my cud, I'm happy, and
it's a good time. Why not?
Right. They're just
I'm probably getting sprinkles.
Correct. The environment's probably pretty good. So you want to keep enough pressure. And we know how cows are, like the bud box theory, right? As the bud box work, is cows are kind of tight, they're going in a circle, and they see light, and they go, and they follow, right? And that's what you want it to be, is the cows are fairly tight, and they see in front of them, cows are moving somewhere, that's where I want to go. And so they follow, and they go, and they go. That's also why wheel speed, faster wheel speed, to me, makes cows load better, because it's just follow the leader. There's no hesitation. When you get really slow running decks, you get so much hesitation that cows really aren't sure. Do I go? Do I stay? You're stopping and starting, and it's not a consistent movement. I think like a 2.3 second entry time, at least for my crossbreds, that's about a natural walking speed, right? If cows just walk,
just keep rolling,
not pushing or running or anybody upset, just a natural gait of a cow, one following the other. It's about a 2.3 second second entry time. Back to your original question. So the first part's the crowd gate, right?
Yeah.
So get the right crowd
Okay.
gate. The second part is the entrance itself.
Yeah.
So you've got to have the entrance angled right. I see a lot of them that get angled. So that if we're doing, say, a counterclockwise spinning rotary,
Yep.
the cows should be on the left side of the entrance loading in
Yep.
because it's going the opposite way. So to me, you want to have that left-hand wall at the same angle as the stall. De Laval happens to have an angled stall. Madero also has an angled stall, typically the other way.
You want an angled stall, correct? Is that what you said?
No,
or-
I don't. I think any of them are fine. I really do. But
As long
I think
as it's
I think
lined
that
up.
wall, you want it lined up.
Right.
So when a cow comes on that outside wall, once they figured out when they come in the entrance, they know, bang, they're up against that outside wall, and then they just go right in. And if she doesn't cleanly go in, she's got enough space to be able to recover. And as she's walking in and the deck is moving, she just naturally flows right into the stall.
So there's a little more space than a single.
Well,
entry.
ours are 6 foot wide.
6
I
foot.
like between 6 and 7 feet, depending where you
Yep.
measure. But it's kind of like a 2-cow entrance.
Yeah.
And I like that. But I've seen 10-foot entrances that work fine. I've seen 5 foot and 8 foot. I don't really know that the width is that important. And I like in the holding pen to have they load from the edge of the holding pen, not from the middle.
Yep.
Because I think cows naturally do better moving if they're kind of up against the wall. Just when you're in a pen,
They're following the
right along
fence
wall.
line, just
Exactly.
like out in the
Following
pasture,
fence.
right?
You got it.
They're
When
following
you have
that
cows
line.
in a pasture, that's what you do, right? You get them up against the fence line and move them along, and they tend to move much better that way.
Make your feed center a profit center. Feed Fit is an innovative, module-based, and collaborative initiative from GPS Dairy Consulting, which provides the framework and resources to understand the financials, trace the inventories, and track the KPIs of your feed center. By implementing the expertise of your GPS consultant, modules are strategically executed with the goal of continual improvement in the efficiency of your feed center. Take the science of nutrition to the reality of milk in the tank with Feed Fit. To learn more, ask your GPS Dairy consultant or look under the Education tab at gpsdairy.com.
If you look at the cow trails, and I got some guys with some pasture, and you watch those trails,
Yeah.
they walk along the fence, right?
Exactly.
That's where they naturally
Totally.
want to walk.
Yep, it's kind of just like a cow behavior thing. They seem to be more comfortable and more at ease at that. And if you have your entrance right, when cows get on the wheel, they're leaking milk. I mean, they're ready to go. I don't see that in parallel barns, that cows, when they come in a parallel barn, because of the turn they got to make and everything, they're not as apt to let their milk down as quickly as a rotary. So if all that works well, cows just come in and load. And
It's almost like a signal, right?
Yes.
Boom, we enter.
Yep.
There goes the oxytocin. We're ready to go.
Exactly. And then the other thing I think is you really want to avoid whistling. It's human nature to want to jump up in there and try to tap cows on the back or whistle and make noise and all this stuff to get them to load. And that's a really bad idea. I think it's better to just get your crowd gate right, get your entrance oriented right, and then just let cows go and flow.
So tell me about the other side of the parlor, like exiting. And I've seen different places and small exits. What's your preference? Like, how big do you want that exit to be?
Most
that
of them
exit
are
spot?
far too big. They really are.
Okay.
But it kind of makes you a little nervous. You have one that's just barely big enough.
Yep.
If a cow gets hung up or something, you got a little bit of a problem. So I like a 4 to 5 cow exit, maybe 6. Somewhere in that range seems to work well. And also, I think Gordy Jones used to always say this, and I agree with him. It's easier for a cow to pivot to her right than her left. Right.
That's why you're doing the counterclockwise. You think that's the reason?
No, I mean, that's one of the reasons. I mean, I thought about it. That wasn't the only reason I did it. It oriented better with our barn. But my 120, the 2 new barns we got, they spin in opposite directions. I kind of had to do that for cow flow reasons.
Yeah.
And so when you take a cow from a counterclockwise and move her to a clockwise rotary, boy, she's totally confused.
Yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing to me?
Like I said, on the counterclockwise, you want to be on the left-hand wall.
Yeah.
So if she goes to a clockwise rotary, she goes on that left-hand wall, and suddenly she's in the wrong spot, and she gets in, she's got no room to get in, and then she's hung up, hits the safety gate, stops the rotary, and boom, and your efficiency just goes all the heck. On the backside, on the exit, I don't like any fancy exit. Our cows, they just get off. I mean, we don't have to do much. All we have is a rubber mat that hangs with a little electric fence charger that creates a mild little shock on that. So if a cow doesn't get off, she'll hit that. And most of the time we have the thing, we rarely ever run the electric fence charger, just a little bit. We had early on in our first barn, we tried squirting water in their face, having the concrete block hanging there, breeding glove filled with water. We tried every trick in the book that everybody told us, and all worked for 3 milkings, and then they stopped. Cows got used to it. But that rubber mat that goes right in the middle of the stall, that's worked for us really well. So we do that in all our barns, and we very, very rarely have a cow going around twice.
Okay, so cows are on the wheel. They're off the wheel. You have a preference on prep? I've seen different preps in the parlors. What's your preferred prep?
So for us, we have the ability to milk more cows where I am.
Yep.
So I'm not constrained by a permit that says I can only have so many. So
Right.
I've got an incentive to try to get more cows through the barn.
Absolutely.
And a lot of dairies, that's not possible. So it's
Right.
a different consideration. So because of that, I believe in a lot of prep, meaning get units on as quick as possible. So a big part of the throughput on a rotary has to do with how quickly you get units on the cow. So if you wait 25, 30 stalls to get the unit on,
Yep.
you've got to run the wheel slower to give her enough time to get milked out by the time she gets to the exit, right? If you put units on 8 or 9 stalls in, well, then you can run your wheel a little faster because you've got extra time for her to get around. So it's all about machine on time. And so the prep for me, like I said earlier, cows on a rotary, particularly 2X, man, when they come in, they're popping. They're ready to let their milk down. They're all ready to go. So I don't think it's hard to get cows to get their milk down, but I think having enough people there to really stimulate the cows and get the milk let down, to me, is all about getting more cows through the barn, getting more milk out the door. And so I don't count bodies when I'm in a barn. I count in my own head, okay, here's how much milk they're selling on that deck in a 24-hour period, and here's the money they put in labor to create that milk, and then divide that, and boom, that's the number that's more important to me.
So it's a little different approach than what I hear from some other people. I mean, some other people really want to get to that 90 seconds in terms of touch time to on time, but you've cut that down a little bit because you think they're almost getting stimulated once they're
so
entering.
we're like 30 seconds.
Wow.
25 to 30 seconds. And I just think it's a complete waste of, you turn your parlor into a merry-go-round. Cows are just there riding around having a good time. It really comes down to contact time with your dip. I think that's a limitation to me.
Yep.
If I didn't need contact time on the dip, I think you just as well slap the units right on when they came in pretty quickly. You just don't need much. But I want to get some contact time to kill bugs that are on the teat.
So one of the things that struck me about your presentation, you're not thrilled about the wand dippers and the automatic teat dippers.
No.
Well, tell me why you don't like those. I mean, you've got a reason.
Yeah, sure, like several reasons. There's never just one. One, I don't think they generally do a great job. The coverage, I think, is never as good as a person doing it. Some of them are close,
Yep.
right? And so that's not the primary reason why I didn't like it. That was part of it. But there's a couple things that I didn't realize when we put it in. One is our milkers, we rotate every hour, rotate positions every hour. So one person's not hanging units a whole shift, or one person's not stripping the whole shift, right? So they rotate around. So when they get to the post-dipping position, that's kind of like a rest position. And I never realized this. And so the milkers told us, like, hey, you took away our rest position, and they weren't happy about it at all. And so that created a little bit of issue with morale with milkers, that they lost that rest position. And then secondly, when you think about a big rotary run in 3 seconds or whatever, and you have nobody in the back end of that rotary where the exit is, you got no human being there looking at what's going on. Like when we had an automatic teat sprayer, we crushed a lot of units in the bridge. The claw just gets stuck in the bridge, and if a person's sitting there post-dipping, you'll see, oh, the claw, when it retracted, it hung up on the deck, and all it takes is somebody to sweep it aside. Like on our one rotary, the units go below the bridge and go under. All hell could be breaking loose back there, and you really have no idea.
It's a big wheel. There's no way anybody can know what's going on the other side of the wheel.
There's no way. And then cows getting off. What if a cow got off and slipped and hurt herself, and other cows piled on top of her? And what happens if a sort gate blocks up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and suddenly the cows are all backed up and pushing into the rotary, and cows get injured and hurt? I just became uncomfortable with having nobody on the backside of the rotary, just seeing what's going on. Then the other thing too is we've been fortunate that we've been able to get people. So for me, it wasn't like I can't find a person to do the work. It's more about the dollars. Do I want to pay for a machine, or do I want to pay for a person? And putting that all together, I was happier to pay the person. I know there's some parts of the country where people really struggle to get labor, and for them it's like, I can't find the body. I can't find a person to do the work. And if that's your situation, I get it. I think they can do a good job. I'm not saying that they don't, but in my situation, and also the speed that we run, you got to have 2 of them, and even then it's really hard because our fastest pens are like 2.5, 2.6 seconds. That's really pushing the limits of what these things are designed for. And so I think we end up with more problems with the speed we're running.
When you have so many cows going through that rotary, it's not that we don't care about labor costs, but that one extra person, it's not the end of the world.
Correct.
I mean, it's not the end of the world in terms
if it keeps everything flowing and cows getting the units on and getting milked out properly, an extra person makes all the sense in the world to me to get the whole efficiency of the system.
It does appear to me there's a few guys that are putting in the walkover sprayers. You know, there's a couple different ones out there.
Yep.
Have you thought about those?
I've looked at them, and the problem is we don't really have single traffic.
Yep.
With the wider entrance, a 6-foot wide entrance, I'm not sure how we get it covered, because sometimes you'll have one cow that hits the entrance by herself and she's dead in the middle of it, right?
Yeah.
Most of them tend to be on the left side, but a lot of them are on the right side. So I think we'd be squirt and dip all over the place and just making a mess. I think it works better on a slower running deck where you've got single file traffic at some point, and every cow has to go through that one spot.
It's either that, or you got to have 2 single file. It's almost like you have to have 2 of them.
Yep. And I personally don't like the entrances that have gates in the middle of them. I know some people really like that. I just don't. I like a wide open entrance. When a cow goes in, she's got a wide open view, because I think, just think about cow psychology and Temple Grandin, some of her work, really insightful. Like cows, when they're in a spot and they're circling around and things are kind of dark, when they see light and open, that's where they want to go.
Right.
And I think the entrance, I'll show pictures in the presentation tomorrow, when you have your entrance, that view, it's like wide open and welcoming. And once she sees that, she's like, I'm home. I'm going to get milked out. And you can tell they like it. They're comfortable. As soon as they get on, they start chewing their cud. They're happy. It's a good experience, the whole thing. And that's, when you get that, you've achieved success.
One of the things that I've been thinking about when I'm watching rotaries, and maybe it's the whole scenes on the rotaries, is how many cows don't get milked out and what's acceptable.
Yep.
Especially I worry about these rotaries where you have an 80 cow rotary, and this cow, she wants to give 180 pounds a day, 60 pounds. And the crosses, of course, are milking maybe a little less, but maybe not. Yeah. How do you set a standard? What percent is acceptable to have takeoffs before they're finished?
Gate detach is what some companies call it.
Yep.
But so a forced retract, every company's got their own word for it. So let's just call it a forced detach.
Yep.
And so to me, that's not descriptive enough, because I think a lot of the forced detaches, the cows are pretty much done.
Yep.
So what we do is we call them undermilk cows.
Yep.
It's just the word we use. And so what we're doing is saying any cow that had greater than 4-pound flow rate at takeoff, we're saying that cow was under milk. So if her flow rate was 3 pounds at takeoff, we're saying she was probably mostly milked out. And that's an arbitrary number. We have consultants that help us, and Mark Wustenberg was one. That's a number he threw out, and we started using it. It's like, that kind of fits. And so the number on that, I like to keep that under 10%. And again, that's fairly arbitrary. I don't have data to show you that there's a problem at that point. That's just been our experience, that if we keep every pen under 10%, like 7-8% range, we seem to do well. If we had pens at 0 or 1%, I'd say, hey, we're not running the barn fast enough. We could get a little bit more through there. So that sweet spot, the word, I guess, is optimizing. We're trying to optimize, right? And I think that 7 to 8% is probably the right number, but we're still learning. I mean, we've just been running these new DeLaval barns for less than a year, and we're learning every day. We get data every day from all of our parlors, and I send out a report first thing every morning on all 4 barns. There's a PowerPoint presentation with 30 slides on each one for each barn, and it's got all that data in it. And, let down 2-minute milks, flow rates, number under milk cows, all that stuff. And that data really is very, very useful. If you want to optimize your barn, you really need that data to see where you're at and to know if you're pushing it too far.
Yeah, I've kind of wondered, that 7% or 8%, okay, but if it's the fresh cows and then they're just lowering the milk production to match the parlor, maybe that's okay. Maybe the cow has to milk in my system. She has to fit in the system. Otherwise, I can't maximize my milk.
You're exactly right. The cow's got to fit in the system. And we group by milking speed, which helps. And so we find about 10% of the cows are slow milking. And it also, coincidentally or not, happen to be our highest cell count cows. So we don't know if they're high cell count because they're slow milking, and they're slow milking because they're high cell count. We honestly don't know. But we kind of put all those in one pen, and that avoids a lot of that, where if you don't separate by milking speed, then you're going to get some slow cows in pens, and you don't want to slow the whole pen down. It's just like in a parallel, right? That whole side, you got to wait for that one girl to milk out. It's really the same dilemma. So you're just trying to optimize and do the best thing. We've got the data now, and we're starting to mine it. We're right in the middle of a project trying to figure this out, looking at the cows on our dairy that were undermilked numerous times. What's the outcome of those cows? Do they have higher rates of mastitis? Are their cell counts higher? Do they have other problems? What do the lactation curves look like? What's their persistency look like? There's a lot of neat questions there that we're finally, after being in a year in our new barns, having the data that I think we'll be able to answer those questions to see. Maybe we need to be 2%. We're like throwing darts on the wall here trying to see.
I don't think we know. And
we don't know.
I've seen some rotary parlors where hey, all those cows, we just don't get over 140, many cows over 140 pounds of milk. And I'm like, wait a minute, the genetics are there. These cows want to give more milk.
I've always believed this, even from days when I actually was milking cows myself. I think you train cows to milk out slow. If you let a cow milk out slow and then keep doing that, she'll get slower and slower and slower. So I'm a believer that there's something to that. What we found is it's not the same cow that's repeatedly undermilked day after day after day. She'll just today, maybe one day she didn't let her milk down. Maybe she went on the wheel, something agitated her, oxytocin release wasn't
heat,
right.
Right?
She was in heat. Yeah, things like that. And maybe that causes that day. But I don't see in the data I've looked at repeat violators, because I actually summed it up for the last 3 months, month by month, how many cows had multiple undermilked events. And there was only, out of all those cows, we only had like 150 of them that had more than 10 events in a month.
Yeah, you can't change your parlor management for those 100 cows, right? I mean,
exactly.
It is what it is with those cows.
It is what it is. But we may be causing other problems we're not aware of, too, by pushing it that hard. So we've got the data. We're going to continue to mine it and see if we can figure out more and learn more.
You know what? I think we could talk for a couple more hours, and I really hope that we can talk again in a year and see what you've learned, because I would love to see what AI is going to tell you on those cows, and I'm guessing you're going to find a few more efficiencies. So
that's what the joy of the dairy business is. You never get it figured out. There's always more efficiencies to go after. So
thank you for your time. We really appreciate you coming in today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You just heard from Greg Bethard and Paul Dyk here on the GPS DairyCAST. I'm your host, Peggy Coffeen from the Up Level Dairy Podcast, and we thank you for listening to this episode. We look forward to you joining us next time here on the GPS DairyCAST. This episode of the GPS DairyCAST is proudly sponsored by Elanco Animal Health. Elanco provides customized solutions for dairy producers to yield healthy young stock and productive cows, to control flies and pests, and to advance sustainability and improve management efficiency.
The GPS DairyCAST features conversations that deliver on the GPS Dairy Consulting promise to inspire change and grow leaders. If this GPS DairyCAST has you looking for more ways to become an elite dairy producer, find more information in our show notes on how you can add a GPS advisor to your team.